Sometimes lawyers get a bad rap. Not this time, though. They deserve every word.
We want to win regardless of the truth, and we want to win regardless of justice, regardless of who's guilty or innocent.
Remember when President Man-Titties a couple months back issued executive orders against big law firms that had or were currently representing prominent Democrats? You know, people like Hillary Clinton, Obama, the DNC, even notables from entertainment like George Clooney. Well, the fat man wasn't too happy. You see, these law firms, at one time, they had a spine, because at one time, they refused to represent Trump or other pro-MAGA bum pirates, like the 1,500 people who were arrested for trying to overturn the election and in the process put 100 cops in jail. Some of these same firms had hired former federal prosecutors who, in the course of their professional duties, had investigated Trump or worked on criminal cases he was facing before he won re-election. But this is just the beginning. There's a resistance growing from an unlikely place. Now, as we know, Tiny Fingers demands absolute fealty. So when the Democrats dropped the ball again and let him back inside the Beltway, you knew what is happening would happen. And of course, Trump's malignant sociopathy only fueled it more. So Trump went after these law firms via his tiny penis vis-a-vis executive order with sanctions against these firms, including stripping the security clearance of the firm's attorneys and staff, which is critically important for certain types of federal legal cases. Then Trump terminated contracts the firms had with federal agencies. He barred the firm's employees from federal buildings, again, an illegal act, as the lawyers could not represent their clients. Trump then demanded firms abolish diversity, equity, and inclusion, all their policies and programs, and threatened them with civil and criminal investigations if they did not comply.
The president has attacked those in the legal community who, in his opinion, engage in, quote, frivolous, unreasonable, and vexatious litigation against the United States. Jessica, does the president have the authority to target private law firms?
That the president cannot single-handedly say, I'm revoking your ability essentially to do business. I'm revoking your ability to go into certain federal government buildings, to have certain clearances that allow you to work with certain clients. And I think what we're seeing here are two things happening in parallel. One is this legal question of how much a president can target any law firm. And let's be clear, none of these law firms have faced sanctions from, for instance, a state bar or a federal judge for their actions. And then separately, how much these law firms really want to fight the administration and how much they want to try to, in the case of Paul Weiss, maybe really make more of a deal than go to federal court and say, we're fighting this.
Next, sir, we have an executive order for your attention. We've taken action against a number of law firms that have participated either in the weaponization of government, the weaponization of the legal system for political ends, or have otherwise engaged in illegal or inappropriate activities. The law firm of Jenner and Block is one of these law firms. This is a law firm that, as you know, employed Andrew Weissman after he came off of the Mueller investigation. It's a law firm that's engaged in invidious racially and sexually discriminatory practices. It's also a law firm that has participated in the weaponization of the legal system against American principles and values. And we believe that the measures in this executive order will help correct that.
And Andrew Weissman is the main culprit?
He's certainly...
With respect to this firm?
He is one of a number of reasons that we believe this executive order is warranted.
He's a bad guy. Okay.
He has no idea what he just signed, does he? No. Anyway, not surprisingly, many of these firms caved immediately, complying with Trump's decrees and hundreds of millions of dollars of pro bono legal work to appease the diapered one. But not every firm did. A handful said, go f*** yourself, and they filed lawsuits to defend their rights, as well as the rights of their clients. Prestigious firms like Wilmer Hale, Jenner & Block, and Sussman Godfrey stood up to Tiny Fingers. And so far, it's paying off, with federal judges ruling that Trump's executive orders are unconstitutional. But they're not alone. There's a new resistance coming, and it's coming from an unlikely place. I'll tell you more about that in just a second. But first, I want to tell you what I just discovered. When my wife and I were looking into Medicare, which is a nightmare, I felt like I was 18 again, taking advanced calculus. I mean, I was lost. And I'm pretty smart, but I needed help. On their own, people like my wife and I regularly end up on the wrong Medicare plan, costing us thousands more each year, and sometimes even putting access to our doctors or medications at risk. But then I discovered Chapter. Now, what is Chapter? Well, Chapter is the only national Medicare advisor that compares every available plan, so you can be sure you're seeing all your options, not just a select few. Chapter is completely independent and always advocating for you and not those insurance companies. It's quick and simple, and when you call, you talk to an honest, patient, and unbiased advisor who walk you through everything step by step. There's no pressure to sign up, and if you're already on the right plan, Chapter will tell you that. And if you're younger, maybe you want to tell your folks about this. Call Chapter right now. The number's on the screen, 816-953-0071. That's 816-953-0071. All right, so other than a few law firms, who's standing up to Trump? Well, the Wall Street Journal reports that at least 11 major companies were leaving the firms that had cowed to Trump. Yeah, some of the companies went on the record. Others were mentioned after the reporters spoke to the general counsels and others familiar with the company's decisions. Companies like McDonald's, Morgan Stanley, and Oracle. Now, you might ask yourself, why would a law firm go out on the limb and defy Trump? Well, if a law firm that so quickly caved to pressure from this, well, if you bent over for this bucket of spunk, how could I trust you to fight hard for me during negotiations or in court?
What's the crime that they committed? It's the crime of criticizing Donald Trump. But the big takeaway from our reporting is not just that he is saying this, it's that the people who are around him who are angling for a job in his second term are starting to come up with detailed implementation plans to actually do that. So that means that they will be staffing the White House with people who will carry out those orders, and that they will be eliminating the traditional insulation between the White House and the Justice Department.
But I especially like McDonald's sticking it to him after Trump gave them all that love during the campaign. And of course, McDonald's ultimate revenge will be when Trump's Big Mac fries and Diet Coke kick in and he checks out. The law firms that cowed to Trump obviously didn't expect major Fortune 500 companies to revolt. But hey, you can only take so much. So these firms not only lost business because they lacked the integrity to do the right thing, but the firms that stood up to Trump are being rewarded for fighting back. And another unexpected result of the firms who cowed to Trump was the rifts between partners and younger associates quitting. A brave step to walk away from the lucrative compensation and benefits offered by these big law firms for these competitive associate positions. And so far, these law firms that successfully litigated against Diaper Don, well, it's helping protect other firms from being targeted. To this point, Trump hasn't issued an executive order directed at a law firm in 3 months, which cements that lesson we all learned on the playground. How do you stop a bully? Well, you know.
Suck my that one, you cheap dime store hood.
Goddamn right.
What you're about to hear could be disturbing.
You're a nasty person.
We're a nation that speaks English.
Look, if something like this, that thing start goggling.
Tara!
You're an idiot!
Drop your pants.
I don't want to talk about this stuff.
Am I wrong?
Yes!
Tick-tock!
You're in a lot of trouble, Donnie.
I think he's crazy.
I'm Chip Franklin.